Here's an example of some biodiversity data that I obtained from iNaturalist. This is for all of the mammal species. These are all mammal species over here in column C, recorded anywhere in the Republic of Ireland. So here's Waterford and Dublin and Kildare and all sorts of places, Cork and Ireland. And this is a big table with a lot of repeats. So for example, here's eastern gray squirrel seen or reported many, many times. And there are 156 rows of this data. So what I want to do is make a table of this by summarizing and counting how many observations of each species there are. Now that won't be a real estimate of abundance that you can hang your hat on, but it will at least be able to give you the ability to come up with a frequency of occurrence that a particular species has been reported. So then at least in this data set, you can say something that this particular species was reported more frequently than this one. So I'm going to show you how to do that in Excel using what's called an Excel pivot table. In this case, we're very simple in what we want. We're just going to call all of these different locations Ireland, and all I really want, I don't really need the scientific name right now, just the common name and the abundance is what I'm focusing on. So I'm going to highlight those two, and I'm going to summarize them with what's called a pivot table. Summarize with pivot table. This is under the data heading in Excel. This just shows me which data are highlighted. So this is column C and D. There you go. And this question is, where do you want the pivot table to go? I don't need to open a new worksheet. I'll just do it right here in this worksheet. And for the table range, that just says, hey, pick a cell, and that's where we'll put it. So I'll just click there in column F, at the head of column F, and that's where the pivot table is going to go. When you do that, you're going to get an ability to set the fields of your pivot table, and that's what's over here. And just by clicking on common name, which is what I want, it's telling me already automatically that there are 156 common names that are listed in those data. Now, of course, those aren't all different ones. It's just how many rows of data there are. So in the table I want to make, I'm going to take common name, click and drag. I want it to show up as rows in my table, where each row is a separate species. And bingo. When you do that, it automatically sums the values, meaning sums every single time that species name shows up in those 156 rows. In this case, count and sum would be the same. We can change the function that we do here. We could take an average, we can look for the max, but because everything in the original data was just 1, counting and summing are the same. So that automatic default gives you exactly what you want. Row labels here, count of common name here. So Atlantic gray seal showed up 6 times in these data. Atlantic walrus only once. Common hedgehog 13 times. So now we've got the pivot table done, but if you want to manipulate that in any way or do anything else with it, every little function that you do with the table will sort of change the numbers after it. So what I like to do is, if I'm going to do any kind of manipulations beyond this, just copy that whole table and put it next door, but I'm going to paste special, and just do the values. So it's going to show the value that's in that cell and not have the formula behind it. And there we go. There's the same data, but now you don't have a function in each cell. Like if I look at G2 here, and there's a function in there that gives me that 6, but here it's just a 6. Okay, well the next thing I might want to do, this is just something I like to do to clean things up, I want to sort them by abundance. So I'm going to go up to data and sort, and I'm going to sort by count of common name, and I'm going to go largest to smallest, and that's just because that's what I like to do. Bingo, and that will order them. So now eastern gray squirrel, the 36 eastern gray squirrels that showed up, the 20 red foxes that showed up, the 14 European rabbits that showed up are all sort of in order there. Next, one thing we might want, something we do want you to do for your workshops in this course, is come up with frequency. So frequency of occurrence or frequency of reporting in particular data. In this case, it's going to be a frequency out of 156, which was the total number of rows in the original data set. So all we're doing is dividing. So to divide, so to put a little function in a cell, I'm going to do an equals sign and then parentheses. I'm not going to do the number 36. I'm just going to click on this cell. And it says divide the number that's in cell I2 by 156. Did I get that right? Yeah, there we go. And close the parentheses, and there's our number, 0.23. Then, once I've got that function in that cell, I can highlight that, grab its bottom corner. Oops, grab its bottom corner. Oops, that's hard to do a little bit. And then click and drag it is what I'm going to do to fill it down. I'm going to bump this up in size a little bit, and that'll help me actually do this. There we go. So that little cross sign goes black. That means I can do it. So now, as you can see, I'm filling down that same function all the way down. And what it's going to do is automatically calculate the frequency for every one of those. So now I've got it. So now I know that eastern gray squirrel showed up on 0.23% or 0.23 of the checklist submitted to iNaturalist for mammals for Ireland. And that's the basic starting data that you want for doing further calculations down the line. So for example, we'll be doing Shannon Diversity Index. Having the ability to put in little functions like this is an important skill that will bump up your ability to do those workshops even more quickly.